Hey, so y'all, today, me and Dr. Brian are going to be talking about the not so sexy side of entrepreneurship. Child.
Oh, here we go. This is a good topic.
It's a great side. So tell us a little bit about, I think that there are 10 principles as it relates to the not so sexy side of entrepreneurship, right?
Hmm.
So I'll talk about principle number one. All right.
Okay.
So principle number one, in my opinion, is consistency beats intensity. And it's because, a lot of people think that I'm going to go, like, you'll see people that'll get into entrepreneurship and they'll go hard, 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 hard. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden they'll drop off the face of the earth. And you're like, where are they at?
Right.
Have you
Right.
seen that?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just like, you got to be consistent in what you do. Why do you think that that happens?
Overwhelmed sometimes. I know I've done that. Like I've dropped looked like I dropped off the face social media, but behind the scenes, I still was doing, what I needed to do. But sometimes overwhelm some can just overpower a person's ability to move forward. Um, so I think that would be one of the reasons why. What do you think?
I think you're probably right, but I think that sometimes it's also the fact that people don't believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, that too.
Because if you
If
believe in
people
what
get started on something and they're going so hard and they realize they're just, especially, this is going to be a hot button topic, but especially people who are, in essence, regurgitating information that they've learned from someplace else and they
Mhm.
haven't actually done whatever it is that they're trying to push out, or they haven't actually worked with that product, or things of that nature. um that more than even more than overwhelm, I can see, because they don't really understand what it is fully that they're talking about sometimes, right? So yeah, I've seen that, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely the case too. And not understanding the part of it, but I do believe that, and I'm going to talk about the not so sexy part of entrepreneurship, but also as an employee, right?
Mhm.
What that looks like an employee, because you're forced to be consistent, as an employee. And me working in the emergency department, I was forced to be consistent through schedules, shifts, and policies, right? And regardless of whether I wanted to be consistent or not, I had no choice but to be consistent. And so, you just really have to pick your heart. And I think many times, a lot of times, people just they don't really understand how hard it is sometimes.
Mhm.
But picking your heart is, do you want to do this because you want to have the ability to be able to do the things that you want to do, the
Yeah.
freedom to do the things that you want to
Right.
do, or do you want to be tied down to a shift, in nursing or whatever a shift is? You just got to pick your heart. And that is, I want to bring the entrepreneur side to it, because I want everybody to understand that, not the entrepreneur, but the employee side to it, because I want people to understand that entrepreneurship is not hard. And then there are some, I mean, it's not easy sometimes, but there are some unsexy parts of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's stuff on the other side too that ain't so sexy.
Right. But I'm glad you brought up the employee side, because let's think about something real quick, right? You said you had to, like, you were forced to be consistent, right? And that's through policies, procedures, and if you didn't follow those policies and procedures, you were going to get fired.
Right.
And I think the problem is people get into entrepreneurship and they're thinking, oh, I'm going to be my own boss. I want to do what I want to do. But when they're in entrepreneurship, they start to realize that doing what they want to do isn't the right way. And so admitting that you have to implement policies, procedures, and actually follow them, even though you're the CEO and you're the founder, you have to follow them. Because if you don't, the consequence for you over here on the entrepreneur side is you can lose your momentum, you can lose customers, you can lose employees, you can, in essence, lose your business, which is the same as if you were employed, you would lose your job if your business is your sole income. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think people put that correlation together. And it is being a founder and being an employee, you still have to have the same drive, and you still have to have the same you still have to have the type of morals that's going to lead you to success, right? You can't just come over here and be like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. You have to do the right thing, and you still have to follow steps and rules and things of that nature. So
I tell people all the time, if you are a horrible employee, you probably won't be a great
I
entrepreneur.
say the same thing.
That's what it is, right?
Because you're
If
going to be your
you
number
were
one
bad at,
employee. So if you're a bad employee over here for this person who's giving you a quote unquote guaranteed check, listen, I say the same thing. That is so funny.
I got time for that foolishness. Now, I want everyone to like, follow, comment us, subscribe to the channel as well, so that we can and tell us some things that you want to hear about entrepreneurship. Now, we're going over principles about this, 10 of them, not so sexy side of entrepreneurship. So, principle number 2 is cash flow matters more than clout. Now,
oh boy, don't even get me started. Let's skip number 2. Don't get me started on that, V. Come on.
listen, people are just like, they're like, well, I need to have so many followers. And I mean, in order for for people to see who you are, yes, at the same time, right? But you need to have cash flow in your business, right? Cash flow matters. It matters because if you don't have cash flow, you are responsible. You have a fiduciary responsibility. It's what my coach says all the time. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your business to make money. Yeah. So, like, we're not over here. And us as nurses, we are horrible at this. Horrible at, like, I want to help the public. Well, you won't have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, sis.
Right. Exactly.
You can't be helping everybody else and you don't have the oxygen mask on yourself. And at first, I didn't really understand that. And I tell the story about my daughter. When my daughter, I remember when my first plane ride with my daughter, she was a year old. And I remember us going to Louisiana to see my brother. And that lady said, she was like, put the oxygen mask on yourself. Well, how many of y'all like to be pregnant? I want you to drop, I like to be pregnant. If you didn't like to be pregnant, drop out, I didn't like to be pregnant in the chat, okay? Because I didn't like to be pregnant. And I was like, this is not, I'm not putting this, because then I might lose her, right? But what I didn't realize at the time was that if I didn't put the oxygen mask on myself, then there's no way that I can protect her from the elements, from the people that are not necessarily so good for her. So you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And women, many, many times, because nurse entrepreneurs are typically women, they struggle with that, right? Put the oxygen mask on yourself, and you either your income is, you either gonna do that or you're not, right? It's like you have to understand that cash flow thing is king for sure.
Exactly. Cash flow is king. I think it's
and as an entrepreneur, you are responsible for generating your revenue, but as an employee, your income is capped.
Yeah, capped. Exactly. I think it's important in this day and age to talk about what you just said, because entrepreneurship is it easily attainable? Yes, you can go out and start a business, right? As healthcare professionals, or, whether you're a nurse or whatever type of license you hold, you're automatically held to a different standard, right? And so sometimes people get out here and they do interesting things that make them go, quote unquote, viral. And then they start continuing those interesting things because that's when they got all the likes and the views and the followers and the this and the that, right? And I'm using the word interesting because sometimes, if you know, okay? So sometimes having all those followers and those likes and whatever can put you in an unfortunate hot seat. So we have to think about that as we're putting ourselves out there. What is it that we're trying to brand, right? What is it? Those followers that you're getting, are they equating to customers? That's the point. That's the whole point of it. Now, if you just want to be out there just to be out there, that's your business. But if you want to be out there because you're trying to build a brand and get as many eyes on it as possible, then you need to understand that the things that you say and do have consequences. You have to be extremely mindful. people who have licenses have to be more mindful than somebody who doesn't, right? If this person doesn't have a license and they're going out there starting a business that has nothing to do with like medical, even like attorneys, real estate, people who have these professional licenses, you're held to a different standard. Because you piss off too many people, they're not obviously calling your job, because you run the job. I am the job. But I mean, people will call the state on you. Usually those license information is public. They will call the state, and they will do what they can to get that license of yours taken away. And so it's so unfortunate. We see this happen all the time. Or maybe it's not unfortunate. Maybe people feel like that person needs their license taken away. I don't know. But that's your livelihood, is what I'm trying to get at. So you're putting yourself out there so much, and you just have to be mindful with the message that you're putting out there, from a business aspect, and even if you are still working for somebody else, but definitely from a business aspect. So again,
it's
not the not so sexy pieces of being entrepreneurs. So yeah.
I think it's important what you said. There's two nuggets that I got from that. Number one is that whenever you have someone who, because like this one girl, like there have been several people who have went online during the time that they were at work. And I tell people all the time, do not go online whenever you're at work. Stop doing that. Okay. That's gonna get you fired. Okay. Because a lot of places have social media policies. But the second thing that I think that you said that was clear about that, and it's interesting that some people get reported for things that are just crazy. Because this is young lady named Jen Hamilton, and she lives in the state of North Carolina. And one of the things that she's obviously Democrat, okay, and she was reading a passage from the Bible about about the things that were happening within the government, right? How about they went for her license? Like they were calling the state board of nursing several times. Of course, she never lost her license because she doesn't like. She just didn't lose her license, right? Because she wasn't doing anything bad as it relates to her license. But you have to be aware of that. Also, the other thing is that I think people do things. For example, I've seen people put on conferences and not have anything on the back end of it, right? And then what happens is when you don't have anything on the back end of those conferences, and what happens is you struggle because of the fact that conferences are not typically the thing that's going to bring you the cash flow that you need, right? You want to make sure that you have a continuity program on the backside of that, so that you can ensure that it makes sense out of your conference, right? So it's a lot of things that, a couple of things, as it relates to cash flow that makes a difference for sure. Because you have to know about that. Now, number 3 is that speed creates advantage. Child. People be chilling.
Waiting. I always say, what you waiting for? Ask my client. I'm sorry, I got a dog hair or something on my glasses. People, I always say, what are you waiting for? Oh, I'm just waiting until. And I'm just like, okay.
They'll tell me that I'm waiting on the website.
I hate it.
Your people are not coming for your website. They don't really care. They want you to solve their problem.
Unless you are there, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is that you're offering. You can get started. Like you said, what problem do you solve? Start talking about it in some capacity. And if you solve a problem in your community, you better be in your community. I mean, we talked about, the whole followers and thing, and number 2, and having that visibility online, which yes, you absolutely need, but you better be in your community, boots on the ground. If you are solving a problem for your community, if you have a brick and mortar location, you better be out in the community just as much as you're online.
Facts. And I think one of the things that I think that people struggle with is honestly the misbelief, the disbelief that they don't believe that things can happen, or that and they don't really understand the compounding effect of money,
Yeah.
right? The sooner you make it, the more you can have because you can compound that money. But if you don't make it, no sooner, and I think that that's one of the things that I wish I would have known a lot sooner, right? And understood a lot sooner that speed creates the advantage. And so that's the reason why, we're consistently going, we're consistently on the thing. We don't stop, right? Because it makes a difference as to what you to do. And one of the things that I know, I mean, and I try to think of this like I do in the hospital, right? Because if you think about it, evidence-based practice says that if someone comes in and they're having a heart attack, there are certain time limits in which you got to get to that medication to them. There's certain time limits. You got to get the medication. Door to med is 60 minutes. Door to cath lab is 90 minutes, right? And the reason why that is because the sooner you get the medication to the problem, okay, and it's very much in the same way. The heart attack is like the problem that you're solving, right? And so once you get the solution to the problem, then the sooner you can make that problem go away, and the more people will pay you for that problem going away. But the problem is that they don't, there is this disconnect between that because there is this comfort in just doing another shift. I'll just do another shift. I'll just work another shift.
And then you know what? And they carry that comfort into entrepreneurship. And so I'm going to pivot just a little bit and talk about the same thing, but I always tell people hire fast, but fire faster. So whenever you become an entrepreneur, whenever you're the founder, you're the CEO, there are difficult decisions that need to be made. The longer you wait, when you have an employee that is not performing and that is not upholding their end of their employee contract, the longer you wait, or maybe they are upholding their end of the contract, but they just have a bad attitude. And now you have that bad attitude, that bad energy, and that bad juju over your business that you've worked hard for, that you've put in the time, the effort, the money, the thought process. You have that negativity hanging over your business. The longer you allow that to happen, the more problems you're going to have in your business. So why are we waiting, right? Success loves speed. You hire quickly because in order to be successful, you have to understand that you can't wear all the hats. You can't be the CEO, the CFO, the COO, human resources, social media marketing manager, whatever. You can't wear all the hats. And the sooner you understand that and you start hiring people, you also have to retrospectively sit up here and be like, when this person is not working out, I have got to move on from them. And I've got to get them away from my business so that I can achieve the level of success that I need to, because this person is not going to be there when I get there. And they're inhibiting me from reaching that level.
And of course, we just had this conversation today. Okay. And one of the things that I think that we have to know is that good is not good enough.
Nope.
Like, well, you've got to be great. Like, you got to come in with that greatness. You got to come in with that stickability. You got to come in with that communication. You got to come in with that. And I think that probably some of the problems is that initially there are people who come in and they're very, because I remember the first child I had, I ain't gonna say child. She's a grown woman. Okay, grown woman. Okay. But I was just like, like literally every time somebody would, every time somebody would do any, like every time there would be something that would happen in the neighborhood, she would have to be off. Well, I couldn't do this because of that. I couldn't do this because of that. And I was like, and then, everybody that, like the next door neighbors were passing away. I was like, you got to get out of that neighborhood. Like,
right. You bring that bad juju to your business.
Right. And I was like, we cannot keep this up right here. And so I was like, and so I decided to let her go. But yes. And then the next person that I got that came on, that person was good, but just not great, right? And there were times when there were things that were just not followed, and repetitive things. right?
Right.
It's one thing when it's a special one-off, right?
Right.
But
Right.
when it's something that's repetitive
Right.
and you still not doing that right,
Mm.
after we done this about 20,000 times,
Right.
like, I cannot.
You know,
So,
one thing I tell the business owners that I work with is, what is your policy?
mm,
How often are you sitting down with your team? Are you addressing it? Are you doing evaluations? Like,
mm-hmm,
if you're not doing those things, let's go back to the hospital. At the hospital, you had a 90-day evaluation and you had a 1-year evaluation when you first got hired, right?
mm-hmm,
Why are you not doing that in your business?
mm-hmm,
And there are some people who come in and they got their act together for those first 90 days, but at that 1-year mark, maybe you've had to write them up for something.
right,
Oh, Dr. Jamie, I'm not trying to write up any of my employees. Oh, okay. So they're just going to keep on messing up and you're okay with that, because
right,
their mistakes can cost millions of dollars.
right,
Um, but what is your policy? What are you doing to ensure that you are following your very own policy? How many times are you meeting with them, sitting down, talking with them? How many times have you had? Because that's your out, right?
mm-hmm,
If somebody does something that's not up to par, you write them up.
right,
And then once they get X number amount of write-ups, whatever's in your policy,
right,
then you let them go, and that's your out. Now that takes the emotion away.
right,
People are too emotionally tied to things sometimes, and
mm-hmm.
so it takes away the emotions. But yeah, you wouldn't be acting like that if you
You
were
know
the
what? I don't really now I have to beg to differ that. I don't think that it takes the emotion away because we have policies like we have a 1 year. I don't think we have a 90-day policy, but we do have a 1 year, where we do the evaluation. But I think the emotion stays in there. Um, and you really don't need for it to be. I do
no,
agree that it should not be.
it should
Okay.
not
So
be you
people
should
know
not be
it should
emotional.
not be say no emotion, drop no emotion in
Yeah,
there.
please,
But
no emotions.
because your business does not have emotions, right? At the end of the day, your business has you have emotions, but your business does not.
Your
Okay?
business is a vessel.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
here, you want
Right.
to get here. This business
Right.
is one vessel that's going to help you go from here to here. That's it.
Right. Yes. And it makes a difference. But one of the things that you really want to understand is that having that and we had to implement that too, right? And I think understanding too that as you grow your business is going to grow well past, I mean it's going to be a big business, right? When you
Yeah.
maintain that consistency. And so you have to have, especially whenever you had the long-term employees and all of that, you have to have those things. So, just look at it as like you in the hospital, right? So in the hospital, you will have a verbal warning, then you will have a written warning, then you will have a written with suspension, and then you would be fired, right? That's kind of the 4-step process, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, my coach, she was like, "Nah, we're gonna go through 2 steps." I mean, you have a written with suspension, and then you're gonna get fired, right?
Yeah. And it
Um,
depends on what you're dealing with. So as I'm hiring people who are helping me process loans, there is zero margin for error. So you get a
mm,
warning, and then after that, that's it. Now on other stuff, I may, we may have to have a little bit extra conversations. I'm still going to document it in your file, but
mhm.
I'm with her. It depends on what you're dealing with, and at what capacity um, people people are operating at, and
That's
what they're
true. That's
operating
true.
with.
That's true. And it's
Mhm.
important that, and let me tell you something. And one thing that will get you fired instantly is integrity, lack of integrity.
Yeah,
Lack of integrity will take you out. No, we don't. You tell me a lie, it's over. I
there you
am
go.
not zero tolerance for it.
There's the
I cannot.
door.
I cannot.
But yeah, I
Principle
think
number
that
4. Do what you say?
let's go to 4. Let's go to 4.
Simplicity scales, complexity fails. The more complex your operations are,
Oh yeah.
the more you fail. And you have to be intentional. People think
Mhm.
because whenever you go for that one thing, a lot of times people think, well, I'm going for that one thing and I'm missing out on all these other things. But this is the reality of the matter is that in your one thing, you're going to have several other things in that one thing. right?
Yep.
So for example, we're a coaching program, but then we have merch that we sell. We also have our CRM that we're a SaaS agency. Like we do another program within the coaching, like we have two programs. So it literally is in that one thing. It can be a lot of things in that one thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So even with your loans, right? You
I
have
was just
several
about to
different
say,
products.
I have a group of investors. I have a group of people who want to learn how to invest. They come to me. Anywhere they're investing in the world, I can refer them. And because I have a real estate license, I get a referral fee, anybody in the world. And if they want to come to me to get their loans processed, which they probably will, because I'm going to help them along the journey, then, I get paid on that. And that's whether I personally do it, or I'm also hiring brokers right now, whether they do it, so the company gets paid. And so that's just from that one program. Like if you sign up for this program, this is how other ways that, I'm making money from that. And so, yeah, like you said, make it simple. Not just make it simple, but make sure it's cohesive,
Right.
So,
For sure, for sure. And Darnice Tinsley said, hello, ladies. Hey, Darnice. And then
hey,
Jamisha
Denise.
said, no emotions. She said, Darnice said, got it a business, don't have emotions, for sure. Yeah, they think we're cool and friendly, right?
You have to remove the emotions. I have to say this because I made this comment earlier today, but I absolutely hate when I hear, especially new business owners, say, oh, this business is my baby. It's not your baby. See, there you go, putting emotions on to that business. And so when you're like, oh, this is my baby. Oh, I watched it grow. I'm so proud of it. I'm this, I'm that. You can be proud of it. You can watch it grow, but understand that at some point you're going to have an exit plan.
That's
You're
exactly
going to have
right.
to have an exit plan because it can't all rely on that one thing.
That's
So
right.
anyway, okay, let's go on. Are we on number 5 or are we
Number
still
5,
on? Okay.
follow up is where the money is.
Amen. Oh, amen. Amen. I was just having this conversation with my son yesterday. My son, he's also a realtor. And I was just having this conversation with him because, we're new to Washington. We've been here for about a year. And so I found somebody on TikTok who is also new to Washington, a young kid, and he's offering to do photos for free. And so my son works, he's a realtor, but he only does right now new construction homes. And so I'm like, you better get with this kid. He's about the same age as Xavier. I'm like, you better get with this kid. 2 days later, I'm like, did you call the guy? Did you message the guy? Whatever. Kids don't call each other anymore, by the way. For everybody listening, heaven forbid you want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody nowadays. But anyway, so they communicated or whatever finally, but I had to kind of coax him. And I tell him all the time, like the person who reaches out to him and follows up with him, those are the ones who are going to get the free pictures.
That's right.
And,
that's right.
I mean, you can waste the money if you want to, but listen.
It is a whole thing. And one of the things that I like, because I've just hired somebody who helps me with my follow-ups because I know, and you want to hire to your weakness, right?
Yes,
because I understand that is a weakness for me. And so I have to, so literally I said, this is you, I want you to have a calendar and I want you to us to be able to follow up with certain people at certain times whenever they tell us to follow up with them. And so now she has a whole calendar where she is helping me, and she's just incredibly proud of her. Nora, if you're out there, I'm incredibly proud of you. Thank you for all that you do. And Jamisha said, we ain't that nice, okay? Can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Listen, Jamisha be coming up with some stuff these few days. Listen, I was like, if people on the fence with joining us, what would you say? She said, well, you can't ride the middle of the road and stay alive.
I know that's right, Jamisha. Go ahead. You sure can't. You sure can't. You got to be decisive. That comes with that making quick decisions. Just be decisive. And the quicker you make the decision, you'll figure out sooner if it was the right or wrong decision.
Right.
And then you can pivot, right? You can be like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done this. All right, let me go ahead and do something else. Or great, I'm glad I did this. Absolutely. And we ain't
number 6
fire to keep somebody else warm. I like that, and we ain't doing that. So no, ma'am. Mm-mm.
So number 6, systems reduce stress. Listen,
Yeah.
that is, and people like build the system. And it wasn't until I had a previous coach, and what he said, he was on a podcast, and this is what he said. He said, "Success is not a secret; it's a system." I
Mm-hmm.
said, "That's T." So I had to figure that out because at the time I was struggling, right? I didn't have a VA at the time. I was working, me and me lonely, and not, or I had the VA and she was not producing in the way in which she needed to produce. And I just
Mm-hmm.
really couldn't understand it. And if you really think about it, in the hospital, because it was one time we were in the hospital and we had this systematic failure of, like, the computers went down, right? And like, this one physician, he was a nice guy, but he kept coming to me. He was like, "If y'all don't get this fixed, I'm leaving." Sir, listen, I ain't got
Right.
nothing to do with this, okay?
Because what it means to me,
Some of the
it's got
had
nurse, IT, housekeeping, radiology, all the things on my badge, all the little, what do you call them? Badge tags or whatever you call them. Man, please get out of here. I'm supposed to fix it. You see, this is why I can't work for nobody else, y'all. I'm sorry. It's been a long time. So
like, I
it's
was
better.
like, what are we gonna do? But the reality was that because the system went down, right? So we're not, like, if we have any stat labs that come back, we don't see the stat labs. We don't
Mm-hmm.
see that you got a high troponin. We
Mm-hmm.
don't see that you got these levels that are out of whack that we need to take care of. So it's literally somebody literally walking from the lab back to the emergency department with these paper things,
Mm-hmm.
these paper labs, and we're struggling to figure out what we need to do. And
Yeah.
then they can't put in any orders. And so because they can't put in any orders, like, you got to literally call and find out where the person is in order to get the orders in. It was crazy, right?
That's
But it's the
crazy.
same way in your business, right? Because if you don't have a systematic way of generating clients, then there is that struggle.
Yep.
And people can, their businesses can die. Their
Mhm.
problem that you're not solving their problems because you don't have it, because your systems are not set up. And so
Yeah.
that's the reason why I'm really, really big on systems, in order to build your business. What you got to say about that, Jamie?
Absolutely. I'm, policy and procedure queen over here. You get your policies, you get everything and then you get everything that follows, making sure that things flow the way that they should. And then it doesn't make life easy, but it makes things easier.
Right.
So yeah, I'm all about doing all the things that you can to remove yourself personally. And as somebody who values businesses, like physically does the valuations of businesses, I'm so thankful that I started out with that mindset in business years ago, because your business is not as valuable if it's all centered around you. And so, here I am now, these years later, and now that's something that I do. I'm just like, I see these mistakes that individuals are making, and the lack of systems is one of the biggest reasons why, in their mind, their business is, no, this is a 2 million. No, I won't accept any offers under $2 million. Okay, then you're going to get nothing, because at this point, this business is worth top 500,000. And so that upsets them, but they don't have, like, if I have to pay money to come in and change all of these things to make sure that everything is more streamlined, then what do I need you for? I can go start my own business. Why do I need to come in and take your business? And if I'm paying, 500 to $1 million to make sure that everything's flowing the way that it needs to, then I may as well just go start my own business. So the systems and having everything in place, not only does it matter when it comes to your clients, not only does it matter when it comes to yourself, but again, that exit, how are
Mhm.
you going to plan, or what's going to happen if you're not there? Heaven forbid, emergently. So it all matters, and it's very important. So I hope you guys are listening out there. I can't see you guys. V can, but I hope are really
Drop listening in the chat if you're listening, okay? Because listen,
listening. Yes.
so
Drop
situation.
value. If you're listening and you can understand the value of your business increases with your systems in play. Please drop value in the chat.
Yes, yes, for sure. Because at the end of the day, you know, I am a firm believer. I remember when we first did our conference, we were manually putting names of the people who purchased tickets on a spreadsheet. And I said, no, we don't keep doing that. No. I said, because as a person, this is the reality. There are going to be mistakes that are going to be made. It just is what it is. So you have to set the system up so that the system takes care of all of that, because you can set the system up so that you don't have to make those mistakes. People make mistakes. It just is
We
what
will
it
make
is.
mistakes. Yeah. And you know what? I think it also takes some of the stress off of the person, right? If I'm a human being, if I'm writing down somebody's name, phone number, address, whatever it is that you collect for your event, I'm writing it down, and then now I'm going over here and I'm typing, right? Or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying like you guys were there writing with pen and paper, but I'm just saying it's an extra step.
Right.
And when you have extra steps, that's more likely that you're going to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have that system, it's less error, but it also relieves stress on you. And when people tell me like, oh, I never got anything from you, I'm like, that's not true. And I don't feel any way about it. I'm like, because I know that this is what happens when you contact me. These are the messages that go out. So I don't feel any type of way about you saying you never got anything from me, because I know, like, how come everybody else did, but you didn't?
Right.
That makes me feel like it's a you problem. It wasn't a me problem. But that sounds harsh. I'm not being harsh, and I'm not a callous person. I'm a businesswoman, and we have to run our businesses in a way that we can't be having every sad story told to us and changing our policies and all that other stuff, and changing the way we do things based off of who it is that we're speaking to. In order to be successful in life, you have to have continuity and simplicity. So why does it say we've been on here for 50 minutes? I know it ain't been no 50 minutes.
It's 37.
Okay.
Number 7, decisions drive growth. You got to make the decision, and you got to make it fast.
Going back to number 3.
What's the name? Lamar Tyler says this all the time, and I think that many people, they struggle with this because they think, well, there is a door that you go through that you cannot go back through, but there's many doors. We struggle with, not we, many people struggle with decision making because they think, well, I'm gonna go through this door and I can't go back through it. I can't go back on the other side. There's not many doors where you can't even go back on the other side. Now, if you shoot yourself in the head, then that may be a door you can't go back through right now. But I mean, most decisions you can go back to the other side. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And don't be shooting yourself in the head. Okay, we do not condone. Okay, the Lord. Yeah. Listen, my mama said that there was no repentance for self-sacrifice, and I believe that, and I love me. Okay, so anyway, you
right.
But other than that, like most decisions, you can come back from those decisions. So just make the decision. If it's the wrong decision, either you learn or you succeed, one of the two, right? At the end of the day.
I think that I challenge people who have that thought process. I challenge them to ask themselves, they say, okay, if I go through this door, I might not be able to come back out of it. And my challenge to you is, why not look at it like, if I go through this door, the next door I'm going to go through is either going to be from a lesson I learned, from a not so pleasant outcome, or a lesson I learned from a pleasant outcome. Right? Let's always think about moving forward. And if we train our brains to constantly think about that, we don't have to worry about going back out no doors.
Right.
Because we know that the next place that we're going to go, from whatever decision we just made, we know that the next place we're going to have to go somewhere. Right. Either we're going to learn from, like you said, we're going to either learn or it's going to be successful. But either way, it's going to open a new door. So I challenge those out there who think that. Don't worry about going back through that door. Don't even worry about if you can. We ain't worried about going back. We worried about going forward. Why am I
Facts.
looking back over here? If you're worried about starting a business, if you have a career and you're worried about starting a business and you're like, if I start this business and it fails, I can't go back to doing this. You can still go and get another job
Facts.
somewhere doing
Facts.
something and probably making more money. So that's just an example. I don't know.
It is for sure.
Crazy.
For sure. Um, I love it. I love it. I love it. Because at the end of the day, and that's what I always say, I just make the decision and I learn on the way down. The reality is that I'm dependent. Someone said that whenever an eagle lands on a branch or whenever a bird lands on a branch, he doesn't worry about whether the branch can hold him because he's
Right.
relying on his wings.
Right.
And that is
Exactly.
what you have to rely on. You have to rely on your wings and start relying on the branch, right? So number 7 is, and I mean, number 8 is your calendar reflects your priorities.
Mm. That's why mine looks the way it looks.
I want y'all to drop calendar in the chat. Listen, your calendar drives your priority. Let me tell you something, and you have to be very intentional about those priorities.
Yes.
Because what
Yeah.
happens is if you are not very intentional about the priorities in which you hold, I think one of the best things that I could have done, and I didn't realize that this was going to be the effect of it, but when I first became an entrepreneur, I didn't have meetings with my VAs all the time. I would
Mm.
just, it would just be haphazardly. I would just,
Mm.
meet and communicate. And what was happening was there was a lot of miscommunication that was happening there. And I had
Mm.
a coach, and if you have a coach and the coach is telling you what to do, I want you to listen to the coach. Okay. Coach told me to meet with my VAs every morning. So I said,
Mhm.
okay, but I wasn't going to do that. Right. I just left it at that. I didn't really want to do that. So anyway, it ended up that he was right. So I ended up starting to meet with them every morning. And that's one of the things that helps me. That's one of the things that helps me be very intentional about my day, right? It starts my day off in the mornings. I'm able to do exactly what I need to do because I'm up and we're meeting at 7 o'clock every morning and we're making things happen. So
Yeah.
it's very, very important.
When I hire a new VA, so I have a team now that's 9. I actually just met with somebody today, so I'll have my 10th one. When I meet with my VA and they say, oh, no, with my other clients, I just message them on WhatsApp if I need something, or I just send them whatever. I don't meet with them regularly. I'm like, okay, then this ain't going to work because I'm not just going to just be like, okay, here's the task, go out and do it. And I'm not going to micromanage, but I want to know in real time that the tasks that I've assigned are being done. And
Right.
because if they're not, going back to, if they're not being done, I don't want to wait until the end of the month to be
Right.
like, why wasn't this done?
Right.
We need to know why aren't they being done? Okay. And if we have to have this conversation again and using the same excuse, now this write-up. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we follow our policies.
That's right. That's right. That's facts. That's
Yeah,
facts. I love that.
when they start with that stuff, and listen, you guys out there who own your businesses, when you hire contracted employees like virtual assistants and things of that nature, now I hired them on. I hired them and give them a email, my domain email, and things of that nature. Okay. But usually you will contract with your employee with them, which is fine, but realize that they have the opportunity to make their own rules. So you have to find the balance whenever you're hiring these individuals. You have to find the balance in what's going to work for you in your business and how you're going to manage with them and their requirements. Or are you going to move on to somebody who you can just bring on under you? You really have to, navigate through these waters appropriately, because you can't hire somebody as a contracted employee and tell them, this is your schedule, this is when you're going to work, this is what you're going to do, this is my this is my that, because they have their own policies for their own whatever their company is. So that's just, you have to have the faith that you're going to cut ties and find somebody who matches with your needs.
That's exactly right. And it is your needs, right? At the end of the day, you need to find that one. And I think that which I struggle, transparently, I struggle with the change, right? But the only thing that's constant is change. And so I have to realize that those are the things that we have to be very, very clear on. And if you're not, if you're the weakest link in the chain, then
Yeah.
everybody's going to perform at that weakest link's standards. And we have
Yeah.
to understand that we cannot do that because links, like, I'm very like, don't show up for meetings late. Have your camera on. Make sure, it's the culture of the company. You have, just like you have a culture of your company whenever you go out and you go to your job, then you have a culture of your company whenever you are working as an entrepreneur. And so those are the things, those are the standards that we have to uphold in order for us to be. I mean, I message one in a minute and be like, why your camera off? Like, what are we doing? Right?
I can't see you.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be clear about that. Now, number 9 is discipline outperforms motivation.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if we agree on this. What's your take? Go first.
Do I agree with that?
Yeah,
absolutely. Do you think that? Do you think motivation
absolutely.
Huh?
No. Nobody about to sit here and rah to get somebody to do things right. No. Especially not in business.
Right. I mean, you got to be disciplined.
But discipline doesn't have to be negative. It sounds like a negative word. And that's why I keep coming back to your policies and your procedures, right? Because as long as people are following your policies, once they veer off, you taking action against that isn't necessarily a negative against you as the business owner. That's a negative against them as the person, because they're going against your policies. And they probably would do that over at the hospital, at these big hospitals. But they're less likely to push the line at their job that they're hired at over there because they're afraid of getting fired. So if you're all like, oh, girl, I know, and you know what, next time we're just going to do better. Okay, then now you're establishing a lack of boundaries and what appears to be a friendship. And the more you establish that, the less they're going to respect you.
Facts. That is a whole fact right there. Whole fact. And you have to be very intentional about that. And sometimes it is difficult to do, especially when you begin your entrepreneurial journey. But what I say is, good is just not good enough. And what is his name? I don't forgot what his name is, but he came to the TSP conference one year. And one of the things that he talked about was that if something is not broke, I'm going to fix it anyway. Because what happens is, the more you fix those problems that you think that are not broke, right? You get to that point where you're building a great company. And one thing that I have asked God for this year is because Darius Daniel said, you don't go as far as your dream, you go as far as your team. And so I'm very, very, I've asked God very specifically about team members who can perform, who can do what they need to do in order to move the needle forward, in order for us to make, the impact and the money that we need to make in order to grow. So yes.
It's amazing. So you said sometimes in the beginning that's hard, right? And so why do you think that is?
I think it's because, at least for me, I didn't see, like, at first I saw it as almost as a side hustle, right? And I didn't see the big vision, because as I have grown in the business, I see the vision gets bigger, right? It gets bigger. So I think that when you don't see that big vision, then it becomes harder, because of the fact that you're like, well, maybe this can last for a little while. maybe I can tolerate this for a little while. And the reality is that you just can't tolerate it. And I think that previously, like, we come from an environment where sometimes your lack of professional behavior is tolerated at times, right?
Mhm.
And so it's the culture in which you come from, right? I come from the emergency department, like, child, that's the whole situation over there. I mean, they
World.
I mean, and listen, all y'all nurses, don't be coming at me, okay? But sometimes the environment can lend to unprofessionalism. It's just is what it
Mhm.
is. And it's hard, but sometimes that can happen. Now, do I think that that happens all the time? No. Do I think that that's a blanket statement for all, ERs? Absolutely not. But I think that sometimes that can definitely happen. And so whenever you come from that environment where there is that unprofessionalism, then sometimes whenever you come into your business, then you have to deal with those personalities and you have to say, okay, why do you think it happens sometimes? Or do you think it happens sometimes? I think you know that it happens, but
I do. And I think, like you said, for one, it's more so about, like you said, what you've seen. So, like you said, coming from the ER, you may notice a difference, and you coach nurses. So you may notice the difference in the ER nurse versus an ICU nurse when they first come to you, right? Because the ICU nurses, and again, I'm not trash talking anybody, but the ICU nurses, they are like OCD sometimes. And again, this isn't to down the ER nurses, because ER nurses, the critical thinking that ER nurses have is just like top notch, right?
Mhm.
When a patient is in that emergency room, that, right? Uh-oh.
What she's trying to say is that if you have an
Uh-oh.
emergency, are you back?
I'm
Go
back.
ahead.
Sorry.
What you saying about the emergency department nurses? I'm gonna tell you what she's trying to say, okay? Because she's glitching over there. But what she's trying to say
Turn
is
my
that the
hotspot
emergency
on. It
nurse,
started storming.
she over there in Washington D.C. Lord, not Washington D.C., Washington State.
Girl, Washington State, girl, Washington State. Hold on, let me turn my hotspot on. It started raining. Look, speaking of change, real quick, let me tell you this story here. Because you
Okay.
said you don't like change. As I've gotten older, I've started to not like change as much myself. And usually, like, my dad was military, we moved all the time. So change didn't bother me, like in the first part of my adult life. But in the past couple of years, let me tell you, I just can't. When I think about the change, it instantly starts giving me flutters in my heart, in my belly. And I'm like, oh my God, what? We have to do this. I am just, my son wants to switch phone providers. And I'm like, you can switch phone providers. I'm not. I'm going to have Verizon and continue to pay that almost $500 bill. But I've been with them for almost 20 years. And I can't imagine. I'm not going to T maybe. No, thank you. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I'm not going to AT&T. Who else is there? I don't think they have Sprint anymore.
They got US Cellular over there.
Whatever. I don't know. But any of them. I ain't going to any of them. I'm staying with the Verizon. I'm going to continue to pay those high prices. But anyway, back to what I was saying. What was I talking about? ER nurses.
You were talking
being,
about ER nurses and their critical thinking skills and how
yeah.
they have
So a patient can go from, stable to damn near dead, excuse my language, in a matter of seconds, and so they have to be able to pick up on the smallest and minute thing. And not saying that, ICU nurses don't, and all the other disciplines in between. We're just giving an example of the personalities of people who have been in specific roles and specific specialty. Peds, a pediatric nurse is not going to act like an adult ER nurse. Like, their personality has to be different. Their mindset about their patients have to be different. And some people may think that's unfortunate, but it is true. So I think it's challenging for people because now you're having to you have to change your mindset, number one, when you already don't know. Most nurses don't know about business. So you already have to change your mindset. You already have to learn. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes there may be a little piece of your personality that you may have to work on also. And so that's a lot of change all at once. And you're spending money to try to create something new that could change the trajectory of your family. So it's a lot. It's a lot to carry on you.
Definitely is. Definitely is. I used to think about the DISC assessment. And, this is how I describe the DISC assessment and the different types of nurses that I thought fit into the DISC assessment. So this is what I used to say. So ER nurses are high Ds, right? Because high Ds are, they think they're going to get it done. Okay. But they think that their way is the right way. Okay. All the time. All right. That's the downfall. Okay. Then the high Is, I'm a high D and high I, just so y'all know. Right. And so because we're the extroverts, right? So high Is, what they think is that, like they're creative. And I describe the L&D nurses like they're creative, but it's hard to put things together sometimes, right? But they're going to create whatever they need to create in order to make it happen. In the high S's, that's the hospice nurses, right? Because they care about other people, but they care about other people to the fault of themselves. And then the high C's are, they're going to get it right. Okay. All right. But it's going to be perfect. Okay. They failure to launch because they struggle. And that's the ICU nurses. So the S's and the C's are typically your introverts, and the D's and the I's are typically your extroverts. And so that's how I described it previously. So I don't know. I think that they all, can follow one of those categories. Yeah. Now, number 10.
Oh, so hold on. Okay. When they join your community, do you have them take the DISC assessment?
I need to. I do not. But I can tell who they are from the gate. Like I can have one conversation with you and I can see how you move. And I can tell exactly who you are. Because then we got some extroverts. They're going to do, like, there's some people, most of the time, they're either on the I, the S, or the C. Most of the time, whenever they need coaching. Typically, the D's, every now and then you'll get a D. Okay, that's going to get it done. But typically, they've already had some level of success, right? But the I's, S's, and the C's, they typically are the ones who need a little bit more coaching than, and I could be wrong. That's not statistically correct. Okay. So don't y'all say nothing about me. Okay.
You're going to be like, she said, and I'm a this. And
don't y'all say nothing. All right. All right. Number 10. Number 10 is the last one. You get paid for solving big problems.
Yep.
The bigger the problem, the bigger the income.
Amen.
And let me tell you something. When you have big problems in nursing, we got big problems. Like it is nursing, healthcare is $1 trillion business. Yep. I want you to be very clear about this. There are people who are not nurses who are solving problems in nursing. There are people who are not in healthcare who are solving problems in healthcare. I want you to be very clear about this. You can either get on the boat or get left behind. Because it is.
They're the ones who are making the most money. Because guess what? They don't have that in their mind. They don't have that. I'm just doing this to help. I'm just doing this to help people, or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
It's a whole situation. It's a whole situation. So that's the not so sexy side of entrepreneurship.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And just going off of number 10 here, sometimes you can think, this is why you need to be around other people, because you may think a problem isn't big, right? It's like you said, the bigger the problem that you solve, the more money you can make. You personally, you may not have had expanded your mindset quite yet. And so you personally may not feel like this problem is big, but somebody does. And the person who is either around the right people that makes them think bigger, or they already think bigger, or whatever the case may be, and they're going to solve a problem that seems so simple, but they're going to make a lot of money. I mean, look at PureWick. Since we're talking to nurses, look at the PureWick. That's been a problem for years. Since the induction of healthcare.
Let me tell
and
you.
women, okay? And so here we are. Here it was, whenever, however many years ago, that they went ahead and put that out, and now look at it.
Hmm.
So you may not think the problem is big, but that's why you need to be around other people so that you can start thinking bigger, and you can now take your product that you may have in mind, or your idea, however it is that you solve people problems, and now you can take that out there to look at solving problems on a larger scale. And one thing I always tell my clients is, business to consumer is great, but if you can figure out a way to get some contracts where companies are paying you a monthly fee and you're solving a problem for their employees, right? Because most of these people that you guys talk to, and they have healthcare clinics or something, right? But if you can do that, then you're going to make more money. So don't blow off the consumer, but just consider those corporate contracts, because that's going
Hmm.
to bring you in more money. Now you're solving a problem for a company that their employees may have. So those are the kind of
That's
things I'm talking
wonderful.
about.
I
Thinking
love it.
bigger.
I love it. I love it. So again, y'all follow us, like, comment, share this video. Bring us, let us know, whatever you guys want to hear about as it relates to nurse entrepreneurship or anything as it relates to business. We've been in business for a while, and so we understand the woes of it. So we would love to come and talk to you. And my friend over here, she's a lender. Okay. So I just want to let y'all know that. Okay. So you can borrow some money from her, but you gotta pay it back. Don't be playing with her. Okay.
You got
All right.
you got to have your stuff in order first.
You gotta have your stuff in order. Okay. She ain't playing with y'all. Okay. Y'all have an amazing rest of your night. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.